Hey guys, welcome to part two. So in the first part, in our discussion and review of this week's milestone one assignment over the judicial systems, we talked about hierarchical structure, level, and subject matter jurisdiction. And I outlined what it was that I was looking for in those responses. All right. So now we're going to finish up talking about jurisdiction and venue. So remember, jurisdiction is the authority of a court to hear a case. So the case that we're dealing with goes back to our scenario, and that is a bank robbery. Now, although bank robbery can be both a federal and state crime. Uh, but for purposes of this assignment, we're going to treat it as a federal crime, because federal law supersedes state law. So when a bank robbery occurs, the FBI has the option to claim jurisdiction if they wish to. So when I was a detective, I worked robberies, and I worked a couple of bank robberies. And all of those bank robberies that I investigated, the FBI came in and took over the case. On some of those, I made the arrest. I did the investigation, I did the follow-up, I ran down the leads. And then when we arrested the suspect, we notified the FBI, and the FBI evaluated the case and sent it to the Assistant U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles to determine whether or not they wanted to adopt the case, and they did. So most of the time, these cases are going to be prosecuted at the federal level. The cases I dealt with, one of the suspects was a multiple offender. In other words, he had several bank robberies in the area. He was a local gang member. But other cases might have been other bank robbers who worked throughout the area of Southern California. But nonetheless, the jurisdiction is going to be federal. So that's going to be our take on this. So the jurisdiction is going to be federal because bank robbery is a federal crime. And how do we know it's a federal crime? So in order for the federal courts to have jurisdiction, remember, it has to be a violation of federal law of the U.S. Constitution. So bank robbery is a violation of federal law, and it is United States Code, Title 18, Section 2113. That is the federal bank robbery statute. So for purposes, again, of our scenario, federal courts are going to have jurisdiction because of that federal bank robbery statute. That's what gives it its jurisdiction. Okay? So that's enough said for that, because I think that is pretty straightforward and pretty clear. So next we're going to talk about determine venue, and we're going to ask you, how is venue determined? How do we establish a venue, and what are some implications of venue? So venue is going to be determined a couple different ways. For criminal cases, venue is determined by where the crime occurred, right? So we don't care where the suspect lives or where the defendant lives. We don't care where witnesses live, right? What we do care about is where the crime occurred. That's what's going to be paramount in determining how venue is established in criminal cases. It's going to be where the crime occurred. Civil cases, it's going to be different. In civil cases, a lot of times it's going to depend on your state or federal law, but venue can either be where the civil tort occurred or where one of the parties live. So it's going to vary. Again, you're going to have to figure out which court might have jurisdiction and which court might be more favorable to you in civil cases. But the focus here for our purposes will be on criminal cases. So again, venue for criminal cases is determined by where the crime occurred. Now, what are some implications of venue? In other words, what issues might come up that's going to impact our particular venue, our particular court location? Now, this is in general terms. So this assignment we're talking about in general terms. Well, you remember in your 2-1 discussion, we researched implications for venue in terms of state court structure and state geography. All right, so remember, I posted a news article about a homeless court in Los Angeles and how homeless people who received citations to appear in this court sometimes had to travel up to 70 miles because the court was some distance away from where they considered their residence. So state court structure and state geography can impact venue. Now, in Module 6, you're going to learn about change of venue requests that often occur in high-profile cases due to extensive negative pretrial publicity, which might taint a local jury pool. So that could be another implication of venue. Again, we're just talking venue implications in general here. All right, so those are some two common implications of venue that you might want to reference here, okay? Finally, we're going to look at venue. Identify the venue for our scenario. So what would be the specific venue for our scenario? Well, since we've already decided that the jurisdiction is federal and the venue is Washington, D.C., the proper venue or the specific venue for our case will be the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Okay, the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. That will be the specific court venue for our case. Okay? I hope this helps. I will do this for our assignments, but especially for these critical milestones, to make sure you understand exactly what it is that I'm looking for as you work on these assignments. Okay? So this is it for milestone 1. Again, hierarchical structure. We're looking at how federal, state, local courts are structured. So again, federal courts would be the U.S. Supreme Court, U.S. Circuit Courts of Appeal, U.S. District Courts. State and local courts would be state courts of last resort, sometimes called the state Supreme Court. State intermediate appellate courts, state trial courts of general jurisdiction, and state trial courts of limited jurisdiction. And then you're to describe the primary role of each. Right? Your textbook will be a great source for that. And again, for state and local courts, look on pages 58 to 63 of your textbook. That's an excellent place to start. We looked at levels. We identified some of the primary differences. The key difference is jurisdiction. Then we looked at the importance of having these levels. And we talked about the fact that it's very challenging for a single court to deal with the types of crimes that we have and the types of litigation that we have that can span multiple states. So we explained the importance in having these levels, and I gave you some examples. Okay, interstate crimes is most appropriate for federal courts to handle because we have people crossing borders between more than one state, multiple states, and so the question of jurisdiction can become very cloudy. And so oftentimes, if it meets federal guidelines, then maybe the federal courts can take over jurisdiction and handle it without any significant issues. We talked about subject matter jurisdiction and its impact on court efficiency. We just got talking about jurisdiction. And again, I'll repeat this again. Our bank robbery is violation of federal law, so the jurisdiction would be federal. And I described the bank robbery statute. How do we determine venue? For criminal cases, it's where the crime occurred, right? That's what's going to drive our venue. And then the court that handles that particular geographical jurisdiction is going to be the court that's going to handle that case within the venue. Then we outlined some implications of venue, and then we identified the specific venue for our scenario as United States District Court for the District of Columbia, right? So I think that's it. So good luck with this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So take a look at the guidelines for submission. Milestone 1 must be 2 to 3 pages in length, and you can see how it's supposed to be formatted, and then reference sources using APA format, okay? So I think that's it. I think it's pretty straightforward. And the instructions, again, take a look at the scenario. Make sure you're familiar with the scenario because that's your responsibility, so that you understand later on when you're answering some of these critical elements that you need to apply them back towards the scenario where needed. Okay? That's it, guys. I look forward to reading your work and have a great week. Thank you.